Alright guys, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And today I am going to give you 22 reasons, at least by my count, 22 reasons as to why you should play /support XDefiant. So obviously because of the number of reasons, this is going to be a longer video, probably longer than average. So let's get right into it so that way we don't go too far into overtime. Reason number one, it's free to play. Need I really say more? There are so many other games out there that are actually of lower quality. Well, or should I say one particular multiplayer franchise that is of lower quality, so to speak, and yet still charges full price and basically doesn't really do anything that you ask for, so to speak. So the fact that this game is going to be free to play and accessible to everybody on all platforms is something that is definitely a good thing, and nobody really has to worry about losing any money or feeling bad for their purchase if they don't like the game or anything like that. So free to play, for the most part, always a good thing. Reason number two. No skill-based matchmaking / engagement optimization matchmaking. So there's no skill-based matchmaking in pubs or in casual play, so to speak. And for those of you guys that are not familiar with EOMM, or should I say engagement optimization matchmaking, long story short, it basically rigs the game in real time through an algorithm that has been entered into the game upon development. There are a few, well, there's one particular franchise, Call of Duty, excuse me, had to clear my throat there, that basically puts that in the game, so to speak. And if you want any specific details on that, like in all of its glory, I recommend you check out Why So Serious, because he even did a 3.5 hour stream on it, and he even made videos about it in terms of, like, in pieces. So if you didn't want to watch the whole thing, you know, he cut it up into pieces and he made separate videos on it, talking about specifics. So, and it is very real, and it's also been patented, which obviously proves that it is real as well. So let's go on to reason number three. Great devs. I mean, the devs behind this game are actually devs that belong in their positions, and they actually know what they're doing because they've developed first-person shooters before. A lot of them are former Call of Duty developers, so they definitely know the franchise. They definitely know what it's like to make a first-person shooter, let alone an arcade shooter, first and foremost. And the fact that they are also so transparent with pretty much everything that they've done, it really puts them at number one in terms of developers, because of the fact that they are just that transparent and they communicate that well, and they're literally trying to do the impossible. And what I mean by this is they are literally trying to do the impossible and try to cater to like every single player out there, whether you're competitive, whether you're casual, whether you're somewhere in between. They do take feedback seriously, and so far it has been nothing but true blue in that aspect. It's been shown off many times over social media and then some, and also in results as well. So anyway, let's go straight into reason number four. Factions. Now, whether you love them or whether you hate them, factions are actually a very interesting part of the game, simply because of the fact that it's really handy for both casual and tryhards as well, or should I even say competitive players to a certain degree, which obviously in competitive modes, it's probably going to be certain factions or certain abilities are going to be banned for obvious reasons. But other than that, factions are basically that alternative of another layer to the gameplay, so to speak, that everybody has access to. However, with that being said, for those that perform better or are able to accumulate points faster, or should I just say more points at any given time, are able to get them even more often. So factions, whether you love them or hate them, they are a part of the game, and ultimately it does add to the gameplay, and I think a lot of casuals especially will really like them. And of course, the people that are good players as well, that are like veterans, are going to be able to take advantage of them to their maximum potential. So anyway, on to reason number five, progression system. Now, this progression system or a prestige system or whatnot is not going to come out until 6 months after release, because once the game releases, I'm sorry, not 6 months, 6 weeks after release, because there's going to be a 6-week period to where there's going to be a preseason period before everything really gets going. But for the most part, the launch is going to be the biggest thing. But ultimately, 6 weeks after launch, we will also have a progression system, which is something that is very important for a lot of people. I think Halo Infinite is a really good example of that. We literally just got one now in Halo Infinite as of like what, less than 2 weeks ago. And yeah, it's something that the Halo community has been wanting forever, and we only have to wait 6 weeks for this one. Obviously other things have to be put in priority first, which is very understandable, and 6 weeks is a hell of a lot better than 1.7 years in order to get a progression system. So, and they're working on a way to do it. I also made a separate video talking about it, so in terms of, actually I made 2 videos about it, one of them with my ideas and another one just talking about the progression system in terms of anything that they've mentioned about it. So the fact that we're getting it is a good thing, and hopefully they end up nailing it out of the park to where it's not just a cookie cutter progression system like some of the other games that we've seen over time. We want there to be some sustenance in there. We want it to be something that is constantly rewarding and constantly feels good to progress. So anyway, on to reason number 6. We have cosmetic only battle pass / microtransactions. Now there's like 90 tiers per battle pass per season, but they've only to my knowledge, the team has already mentioned that it's going to be cosmetic only. So it's nothing really that's going to be pay to win, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be some pretty cool stuff on there, like weapon camos or attachment variants or some shit like that. I mean, who knows? Or faction variants in terms of how they play or whatnot, but nothing that changes the stats of the weapon or anything like that. Just purely cosmetic for looks only. So that's definitely a good thing. Moving on to number 7, XDefiant is basically a classic arcade shooter. A classic arcade shooter. The genre has been kind of dry lately, and ones that were classic arcade shooters basically turned into something completely different, and therefore neglecting the classic arcade shooter fan base and genre. So the fact that this is a return to form is really great. So I think a lot of players are really going to be fond of that, obviously, are fond of that. So if this sounds like a good thing for you, then you should definitely check this game out. Moving on to reason number 8. It's easy to play, but hard to master. Obviously, the game is going to be a challenge because it is a new game, but yet at the same time, it's familiar enough to where you can kind of get in there and have a good idea of what you're doing if you played a game like this before. But with that being said, in order to reach mastery level, again, there's enough of a different type of game in here, despite the fact that it may be very familiar to classic Call of Duty, for instance. There's enough in here in order to challenge even the best players, right? And at the same time, they've also got ranked mode if you're really interested in truly testing yourself. But at the base game, though, again, it's got that formula of to where it's easy to get into but hard to master, which is a W in my book. Moving on to reason number 9. Crossplay. Now, a lot of people might think that crossplay is actually a bad thing, but when we go into reason number 10, you'll understand. But crossplay overall is good because, quite frankly, we want everybody, you want as many people playing this game, and it's good that everybody on every platform possible have access to this game, and at the same time, it doesn't really limit you to play with friends that are on a different piece of plastic or a different piece of hardware, so to speak, right? So crossplay is, for the most part, more of a good thing than a bad thing. There are more good reasons to have crossplay than there are bad reasons. So number 9 to me is a win. Reason number 10, input-based matchmaking. So with crossplay, the one bad thing is that most people don't want to, like, controller players don't want to play against mouse and keyboard players, and mouse and keyboard players don't want to play with controller players, or should I say against, right? So basically the way this works in input-based matchmaking is you get to select, you get to pick it in terms of, first of all, you get to choose whether you want crossplay on or off, but you also get to choose input-based matchmaking. And what that means is that the game is only going to search for players for you that have the same input as you. So if you play on mouse and keyboard, you're only going to be matched up against other mouse and keyboard players. If you are a controller player, you're only going to match up against other controller players. I mean, again, this is an option, so if you want to, you can just turn it on or off. So it's always good to have that because there are a lot of games out there, including Call of Duty, that don't have input-based matchmaking. Unless you play ranked, but that's about it. So anyway, definitely a good thing. Next up, reason number 11. Last gen console support. Now, sometime after launch, and at the same, similar to the older Call of Duty formula, to where you can expect this content and this content and this content. And let's not forget that all this content is free. They're not going to charge for post-launch content. It's just something that's going to be coming every 3 months. And at the same time, they've already mentioned that pretty much every month we're going to be getting a new map. So we're only going to be 4 weeks away until that new experience. And again, judging by the maps that I've seen so far, I think we could expect good things from the developers in terms of the maps and the quality of the maps. And of course, 3 new weapons every season certainly helps as well, which is going to bring, by the end of the year, it's going to bring the total tally to 36 weapons, which is great. All right. Moving on to reason number 13, ranked play on launch / competitive support. In a lot of, like, for instance, I'm going to, again, compare to Call of Duty once again for obvious reasons. Ranked play hasn't been on launch in Call of Duty for quite a while. I think maybe Call of Duty World War II was the last one. If not, maybe Black Ops 4 was the last one to have ranked play at launch. I'm not sure about that. Don't quote me on that. But one thing I do know for sure is that ranked play at launch hasn't been something that every single Call of Duty game has been able to mesh out, despite the fact that a lot of people expect it, despite the fact of the pro scene and everything like that. Rank play isn't always available at launch. So, but with this game, rank play is going to be available at launch. And as a matter of fact, they had it in the first beta, right? They had it in the first beta. So the fact that you had rank play on a beta is also great. And it just goes to show you also the amount of support towards the competitive scene. So I think a lot of competitive players will be very, very interested in that. And of course, there's going to be a system in terms of how you're going to be able to progress through the ranks in competitive in order to make the highest tier and compete against the best of the best. So for those of you guys that are into that, it will be there at day one at launch. All right, reason number 14, practice zone mode. And what this is basically a combination of, there's three things. There's this kind of like this obstacle course they go through. There's the faction practice to where you can practice and understand how your faction abilities work and stuff like that. And there's the firing range that doesn't only give you targets to shoot at, but also gives you stats in terms of how much weapon damage you're doing at what distance and all that kind of stuff. Headshot damage, you name it. So basically it's like having a drifter or exclusive ace right there giving you the data, so to speak, in terms of the distance and all that kind of stuff. So this is great. It's great that all players have support to this, and it also allows them to play with their classes up a little bit, so that way they can get a feel of how the weapon works without having to go into a match and to test things out and just kind of play worse, so to speak, right? So it's really good that they kind of have that feel, and if there are certain weapon attachments or a combination of attachments that they don't want to use, then they don't necessarily have to, because if they don't like how it plays, then it's like, okay, I'm not going to use this, I'm going to wait till the next one or whatever it is. So it's great that we have that option. So reason number 15, there's going to be a stat tracker / combat record. Now, the reason I know this is because in the open beta, we kind of had a very, very, very bare bones type of stats tracker. And I'm assuming it's a hint that we're going to get something more in depth come launch. And I think it's something that the developers are already kind of anticipating, simply because of the fact that there will be something of that nature, because they're kind of giving us a very, very bare bones of it during an open beta, so to speak. So I think it could be a hint in terms of what more we could be getting. And I would love something comparable to Black Ops 1 in terms of, you know, what weapon you use the most, or which weapons you get most kills with, or what you're getting most killed by. Maybe a little bit of a map layout that shows you in red dots and in blue dots in terms of where you get killed and where you get your kills and stuff like that, so you can kind of study that and strategize, so to speak. I think something like that would be really cool. So we will see. So I think that's something we can look forward to as well. Moving on to reason number 16, weapon camos / challenges. Now, there's already been mentioned that there's going to be camos in the game, and of course there are going to be challenges, and I don't see any reason why there shouldn't be. And when there's a progression system, there's challenges, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So ultimately, at the end of the day, there will be challenges put into the game along with all the golden nuggets that kind of go with it. So I think there's a very important reason for that, and there's going to be a reason for people just to grind out camos and try to get 100% of the challenges done. There are plenty of people that do this, both casual and non-casual alike, because it's enjoyable. It's a fun grind, so to speak. And I don't even know if it should be even called a grind. I mean, well, a grind could either mean something fun or something not fun. It really just depends on how you look at it and in the context that it is displayed and shown and practiced. So ultimately, the fact that we have weapon camos and challenges is definitely a good thing, and it's only going to help complement the progression system even more 6 weeks after launch. Moving on to number 17. Overall, this is going to be a fun game to play. If you want, I mean, it's already fun come beta, and during launch and come launch, it's going to be even more fun because the game is going to operate even better. Sure, it might have a rough launch. There's a 50-50 chance that the game might have a rough launch because everybody's going to be trying to play it. Like, so many people are going to be getting into it. But despite all that, I think the devs are really putting their heads down right now in terms of trying to prepare for launch, really. So, and not only that, there's also going to be, like, if there is something going on, it's going to be patched up pretty quickly, because even certain things that they were looking into when we were in the open beta, within 24 hours, they released an update to patch some of the problems that were in there. So, and I even got a little bit of feedback from somebody in my comments section saying, yes, that the game does, I'm actually able to get into the game now ever since that patch, or since that update. So there you go. All right, moving on to number 18, good weapons / attachments. Now, there are a multitude of different weapons and attachments, and it kind of works like regression system and with pros and cons, so to speak. And as much as I wish the pros and cons system wasn't in this thing, I will say that I'm actually quite, I've opened up to it quite a bit because it's not nearly as punishing or as one-sided as it is in the more recent Call of Duty games, especially more like towards, and what I mean by one-sided is it really punishes a specific player with a specific play style. But with XDefiant, it seems to be more lenient, but at the same time it gives the player options in terms of how particularly they want to be with their weapon and how they want to use that weapon. Do they want to use that weapon to hold down sights, lines of sight, or do they want to or close the lane down, or do they want to basically have a little bit more freedom to run and gun and to strafe faster and stuff like that? The game is pretty much offering those things, and I don't know if there's going to be any changes to the attachments or whatnot. I think it's something that we're going to need a little bit more long-term data to determine. But overall, this is a good thing. And even though there's 24 weapons at launch, including sidearms, of course, and other weapons, a lot of the weapons seem really solid. I think the shotguns could use a little bit of a buff. Nothing crazy, but just enough of a buff to make them a little bit more viable and more fun to use. I know shotguns that become powerful can end up pretty cheesy, but at the same time, this is an arcade shooter, you know? So I think shotguns could use a little bit of love, but other than that, the weapons are pretty much solid. Obviously, for me, the ACR stood out in terms of assault rifles, but I know for a fact that come full launch, things are going to be feeling a little bit more balanced and even better. Because it certainly did from closed beta to open beta, and I have no doubt that once again that formula is going to be repeated and history will repeat itself come launch. All right, moving on to reason number 19. So reason number 19 is, well, we've got solid maps, 14 of which will be at launch, and we're going to get one every month, right? So solid maps, see, maps are so important because they can make or break a game. And for an arcade shooter like this, it gives you reasons to run around. And if you're going to play any sort of particular play style, whether you're playing, you know, whether you're a run and gunner, whether you're a camper, or whether you're a little bit of both, this game, there's something in this game for everybody. But at the same time in there, you've got hardpoint, you've got Escort, King of the Hill. So, I mean, ultimately, these game modes are really fun to play. And obviously, there's going to be competitive play as well. And I think there's like about, I think, 3 game modes, if I'm not mistaken, that you can play in competitive. It can be Escort, Hardpoint. Well, they don't call it Hardpoint, but I keep on forgetting what they're called. Escort, Occupy, and one more thing. So, and there's words going around that they're going to release an S&D mode at some point in time. Obviously, the big wish is to have it at launch, but even if it doesn't, it's probably going to happen post-launch. So I would say you can still expect a lot of things come after the first 6 weeks of the game's launch. Seriously, it's going to be a big thing. It's not just going to be about the progression system, which is the thing that I'm looking forward to the most, but it's also going to be about, you know, additional content like solid game modes and stuff like that, which they've already said that they're going to do. So anyway, guys, yeah, that concludes the video. Those are 22 reasons as to why you should play XDefiant or give it a shot. We don't know the release date of the game yet, and I've also made another video talking about how it might be possible that it could be shadow banned, but only time will tell. But the game is going to come out at the very end of summer at the very latest. So anywhere from now to September 1st, we can expect the game's release. Some people out there that they think that it might be released sometime this month. Other people think that it might be released in August. And obviously September 1st is the end of summer. So we know we're going to get it either this month or next month. So it's an exciting time if you are an arcade first-person shooter fan, or a former Call of Duty fan, or a Call of Duty fan that just misses the classic arcade shooter type of fix. I think this will be a good alternative for you. And again, the reason why I say alternative is because this game is not a COD killer, and nor does it need to be or try to be. It is its own thing. There's a lot of different things in here, but at the same time, there are a lot of similarities. So, and again, just like I read in an article earlier today, you know, there's plenty of battle royales out there, so that doesn't mean you can't survive. You don't need to be the killer. You don't need to kill Fortnite, so to speak. You just need to do your own thing. And a lot of players will switch between games. Like they'll go from Apex whenever they get tired of that, they go to Fortnite, and then vice versa, and then they'll play, you know, all sorts of different battle royale games. So, and it's the same thing with this game, and it's nice to see that that kind of familiar treatment is given to the arcade first-person shooter genre, because it certainly deserves it, and there are a lot of players that are interested in it, contrary to what we used to believe before the XDefiant phenomenon, so to speak, came to be. So But anyway, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. What are you looking forward to the most when it comes to this game? Which one of these reasons, if anything, is your number one or whatnot? And is there anything I missed? I thought about this plenty before making this video, but of course, I am human after all, and I'm far from perfect. So if there's anything that I missed that we can also be excited about, or another reason, please let me know down in the comment section below, and we can add like a number 23, 24, 25. Let your imagination run wild. With that being said, thank you so very much for taking the time to watch and or listen, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.